re-raising could make a lot of sense. So, and Tom didn't re-raise him, so clearly Tom didn't think it was just definitely a bluff.
And I think Sammy's been a bit on the comeback trail lately. We just saw nearly back to about 500K, which
would put him even, other than the ace-king to aces hand.
Yeah, fantastic. Now this is an interesting line because I feel like usually when Sammy's been leading out, it hasn't been like a massively strong hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've seen him lead, including this hand, 3 times recently. Once he had 10-8 on 7-7-6. Once he had Jack-10 on 10-9 something. And now he's got King-Queen, which is the strongest hand he's had in such a situation. But Tom has turned 2-pair, and Sammy could be in some serious trouble here.
Why the call instead of the raise?
He might be a little worried he's up against King-Jack, but more than that, I think that he's hoping Sammy has something like Queen-10, Queen-9, any of the gut shots in the 7 through Jack area, and we'll just fire a third barrel as a bluff on the end.
And then raise.
Check.
Probably so, yeah.
You can see Tom's eyes getting a bit wide. Is that a sign of greed? Is he going to make a big bet? I mean, I think he's getting paid off on a big bet here, but that's just because we know the cards.
Yeah, this is certainly one of the strongest hands I'd expect to see Sammy check here. Sammy is bound to think that he almost always has the best hand, so he must be just setting Tom up to bluff so that he can snap it off. And looks like Tom has bet 42. And yeah, Sammy announces call instantly.
How much? 42.
42.
If Sammy had some inkling that Tom had picked up a strong hand there, well played by him not to lose more. He had a very strong hand.
It feels like he's lost the minimum there.
Yeah, it really does. Only one bet went in on each street, and it doesn't seem possible for any less than that to go in.
Obviously, Tom feeling quite good because he's ahead in this game, but you do believe that if he was stuck $500,000, he'd look the same.
Yeah, absolutely. He really does have an impressive level of composure.
As does Sammy, who's been taking this quite well. And really, I mean, when you think about it, Sammy is but one pot away from being even.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check. Check.
Could have checked, could have led. Can Sammy still check, or is a bet imperative?
5,000.
I prefer betting here, I think. Checking wouldn't be terrible, and with the particular hand Tom happens to have, he'd be somewhat likely to bet if checked to. But I do think leading is best. It's a situation where I would want to bet frequently, because you're going to have a lot of open-ended straight draws and gut shots, and there are 2 different flush draws available, and you want to bet all of those so that you can win right away. So you want to bet your top pairs to balance that out and make it harder for your opponent to call. Protect those bluffs.
He gave him the free booty on the river, Sammy, but he takes the pot. Got a little look at the stats here. He slipped back a little bit, he has, Sammy.
Yep. A lot of the other numbers are holding pretty steady with what we've seen earlier.
It's fantastic. I mean, Crockford's is sweet too.
Both of their 3-bet frequency has gone down.
Yeah.
What is that an indication of? Not 3-betting as often, but
I think that
You know what I mean? That's the main
it's
thing in
likely a
Australia.
result of adding more money to the table. 3-betting gets to be a worse play as stacks get deeper. It gets to be easier for the button to call the 3-bet and find a way to take the pot away after the flop when there's so much money to play.
5,000.
so it's almost like if the stacks were even deeper, then all of a sudden 4-betting becomes a more common play. But right now,
Yeah,
Crockford's is
but
really nice.
only if there are enough 3-bets happening to set it up.
Check. Check.
And there's sort of I mean, in tournament poker, obviously stack size is everything, but in cash poker, stack size is everything in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a totally different game, playing heads-up no limit with 20 big blinds, or 40 big blinds, or 100 big blinds, or 300 big blinds. They're almost each a totally different
So
game.
which an ace if you rolled off on the turn and river?
If an ace rolls off, then we fire. Huh?
This game has entered a little bit.
double
There's
up, baby.
Tom's stacks.
Double
He's about 600 plus. A little bit of a passive phase, and it's almost like since Tom has been dictating the action, he's happy to let it just slow down a little bit. Why?
I don't know exactly. I mean, I can see why he's not 3-betting more, because of the stack sizes.
3,000.
But in general, why he's not
11,000.
making more big bluffs, going for more thin value. It might be largely a function of the situations that have come up. We haven't seen, you know, a really big draw against a strong made hand, or two strong made hands in a while.
Because as you've said that, here comes the 3-bet, here comes the continuation bet, and here comes a tricky decision.
Yep.
Cool.
Well, I think Sammy's going to have to take going off here, as he is.
And who's more confident about what's going to happen on the turn?
Well, now that Sammy's picked up a flush draw, it's hard to see him losing this pot.
Check.
Though he's likely to check it back and only chop.
Effectively the same hand right now, not no
And-
more.
Oh, that... Well, it's not that big a card, because it gives Tom 10s up, which would still lose to aces up. But complete Sammy's flush, which he's going to bet. And I wonder whether or not Tom will pay this off.
56,000 in the pot.
This has been a spot where Sammy's been overbetting a lot, but those overbets haven't been getting called. I wonder if he'll try a smaller bet here. Especially because there are so few missed draws for him to represent. It's really only 8-6.
32,000.
Yeah.
And the last thing you expect Sammy to have is a flush right now. So you're wondering if he has an ace or a 5? Is that kind of what Durrrr is thinking?
Well, a flush isn't too improbable. It would be specifically, most likely, the 7 of spades and some other spade. That makes up a considerable number of the hands that Sammy would play like this up to this point, and an even larger percentage of the hands that he would then bet on the end. I think that Tom is definitely thinking that if he's beat, it's often by a flush. Very rarely by a 5. I think Sammy's going to bet a 5 on the turn almost every time. Though it could be an ace, especially ace-10.
Have a lot of pairs. I like folding lots of pairs.
Tom does have a lot of pairs.
Does and what is the determining factor about whether he calls on? Is it the price? Is it the logic? Is it something else?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is the logic, the hand reading. What can he put Sammy on here? I think he's mainly hoping to see a hand like 8-6.
Well, he did call,
Aces, 10s, and 5. Hey.
and
I've
that
been thinking with an ace.
Oh, so I was with him. And then that's the wrong card. I mean, I'm angry at myself. for
welcome back to the
popping
Full
more.
Tilt Poker Durrrr $1 Million Challenge. And Isaac, I mean, just that
it's the right amount, isn't it?
tower of chips that Durrrr has got in front of him now. It's
Cool.
intimidating, I think, if you're Sammy.
Yeah, definitely. It's frustrating to look across the table and see all of the money you've just lost.
Where Sammy does have a lot more of the yellow 10,000 chips, but
Yeah.
feels different.
And that right there is sort of an indication of how things have been going.
Check.
Durrr's been winning the small pots. He's been collecting all of those smaller chips.
Flushy.
You know, don't even worry about it. I was trying to be
Something
like
tournament players talk about all the time, looking around the table and seeing who the guy with all the anti-chips is. And sort of a similar phenomenon going on right here.
Not cool.
Set. Oh,
And a call.
it's a thin value bet.
It was actually just sort of a defensive bet, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Tom makes a
Well,
set,
it's over now. It's all
and
right.
Sammy makes a
just, like,
flush,
spewed all over
and
them
Tom
with the
loses
sets.
only quarter pot, so... With such a small flush, Sammy might have checked back if Tom had checked it to him. But
3,000.
I'd say the defensive bet worked out pretty well.
3,000 total.
That's what you were saying before about all of a sudden we can see Tom putting a lot of small pots. It's almost like he's stunned Sammy into a spot where Sammy's looking for a big pot, waiting for a big hand, and you just seen all these little 3 and 6,000s getting shipped over to Tom.
Yeah, that's something that happens a lot when one player gets stuck in a heads-up match, is that they start to only care about the pots that can bring them back close to even, and they focus less on the small pots.
And let's face it, I mean, these little pots can add up quickly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a small win turns
Yeah.
into a medium win, turns into a
That
big
put me
win
off a little
really
bit.
fast with a lot of small pots.
You're like a robot used to the standard.
Right.
We heard
3,000 total.
sort of
Yes.
Roland and Neil talking about it earlier, which is that the danger with buying in too deep is that all of a sudden you're a little bit scared of your stack size, so you're not playing as aggressively as you should be. That can be a bad thing.
Absolutely, yeah. When you've got that much money at risk, you have to be careful, and it's strategically correct to be careful. But at the same time, you don't want to be too careful. You don't want to miss value. You don't want to be afraid to make a big bluff.
Call.
We've seen this a couple times. I don't think we've seen Sammy make this call to Durr's lead with top pair ever. You know what I mean? You think Durr can kind of think to himself, Sammy's likely got a queen here.
I don't know. I don't think Durr would be particularly expecting Sammy to raise with a hand like ace-7 or ace-9.
This is my love for you. I'm so
But-
weak.
Is there a bluffing opportunity here for Tom?
Queen.
I don't think it's a very good one. I think that he's going to bet again on the turn with a flush draw, a very large percentage of the time.
Look at the stats. I mean, I kind of expecting Sammy's total aggression number to go down, but it's staying kind of the same.
Yeah, it's held pretty steady. I think it might have been up around 65 the last time we saw it, but 62 is not much of a change.
That's
But,
pretty significant, isn't it? I mean, it should break even 50-50. It doesn't, but it should.
Right.
3,000. Call.
Yeah,
They
if
said we can't.
two equally matched players are
They
playing.
said we can't.
Yeah, it's true.
Are you a stats guy? Do you check those kind of numbers in your own play?
Yeah, definitely. I do like to keep track of that sort of thing while I play.
And which of
5,000.
the numbers we've seen would your number be significantly different from Durr, do you think?
Call.
I'd probably be playing more buttons. I'd probably be playing very nearly every button. I usually do when I play heads up.
This is the first time we've seen this kind of matchup, top pair v top pair, Sammy with the kicker. Is it going to check bet call on the flop?
I believe so.
$17,000.
Should Durr be thinking about getting away from this? Or should he be thinking about something else?
Here we go.
It's awfully hard to fold top pair in this sort of situation.
Call.
Yeah, I like that call.
And raising never a good option because it would kind of turn your hand into a bluff in a sense.
Yeah, raising would essentially be a bluff, and there's no need to be bluffing with the hand Tom has.
They now have the same hand.
Yep.
Check.
Two pair having counterfeited Sammy's kicker. I think Tom will probably check back here. I don't think he has a value bet. Yeah.
And just
Good news.
sort of an indication of the way things are going. Sammy thinking, that pot should have been mine.
Yep.